I'm the CEO of FIMI, Enzo Mazza, and I'm here today with some hosts. They are from record companies, from IFPI, the major organization representing the record labels in the world. So I hand over immediately to David Price, and he will go through a short presentation with numbers. It's an interesting presentation about the consumer habits and the music engagement in Italy. So I immediately ask David to start, and then we should debate on his presentation. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Enzo. Thank you for inviting me back to Milano Music Week. Thank you also to Rosella, wherever she is, for organizing this panel. I was here last year. I gave you a really long presentation with enormous amounts of data. I'm very pleased to be able to say it's going to be much shorter this year because you've got some actual experts on the panel who'll be able to answer all sorts of proper questions about the music industry. Every year, IFPI does the music consumer study. This year, we were in 26 countries, a new record. We talked to over 43,000 people. In Italy, we spoke to 1,500 people aged between 16 and 64. Sorry, we've gone a little too fast there. We give people a 20-minute survey all about their music habits. We want to know what they're listening to, how they're listening to it, what platforms they're using, what they think about major issues within the music industry and within technology and other areas. I'm just going to give you a very brief highlight of some of the data that we have just on Italy, and I'll talk a bit about some comparisons between what we see in Italy and what we see in some of the other major countries. So, first thing we always start on is about how much time people are spending listening to music in Italy and how they're doing it. This year, 21.3 hours a week, on average, every person in Italy is listening of music. So that's 3 hours a day. And that's an increase from last year. It's a jump of, what have we got? 4%. And I think any increase in music listening is really impressive in these times when you've got so much demands for your attention, social media, streaming video, whatever you can think of. We're still managing to find people listening to more music year on year. And when we start breaking it down, I find it gets really interesting. So 16% of all music listening in Italy is coming through paid streaming services. That's like Spotify Premium or Apple Music. We've got another, I can't even read that, 12% coming through ad-supported streaming. So that would be, the free tier, the ad-supported tier of Spotify. Video streaming still a really big part. Nearly 20% of all music listening coming through video platforms, and primarily that's YouTube. And then we've got short-form video. Just under 8% of all music engagement is coming through platforms like TikTok. Social media is also a big thing. Music on Instagram, on Facebook, on other social media platforms. And then we've got radio. Radio is still a huge part of people's music lives in Italy. Less so for younger people, more so for the older generations. Purchase music is still very important. People buying CDs, buying vinyl. And then we've got a few other areas, live and live streaming. Piracy is still having an impact here in Italy. We do a lot of work to try and clamp that down, but it's still a big part of many people's way in which they download and find music. I want to show you also how this has changed over time. And I'm going to focus on that youngest age group, 16 to 24s, because these are the people who engage most often with music. They're the people who listen to the most music. And they, if you like, they're the people who start those changes in how music consumption happens. So first thing to say is we didn't do a consumer study in 2020. That was during lockdown. I really wish we had, because we saw a lot of changes. But I'm going to show you some changes over this period from 2018 to 2023. So this is the amount of time people are spending listening to paid streaming. So music through Spotify Premium and other systems. You can see just how much that's increased from about 2.5 hours to more than 7 hours in 2023. We've got ad-supported audio streaming, which has stayed relatively static. We've got, oh, went a little too fast, video streaming, so YouTube primarily in Italy. And then we've got this huge increase in a combination of short-form video and social media. And we know that when we went into lockdown in 2020, TikTok was a massive beneficiary of that. Everybody downloaded TikTok. They wanted a bit of fun on the app. And the amount of music consumption we've seen happen through TikTok, particularly for this youngest age group, has really increased. Radio, as I mentioned, really popular in Italy, but much less so for this younger age group. And then purchased music, things like CDs and vinyl, down there as well. But really, really big changes over the last 6 years. Just look at that huge increase in subscription audio and that huge increase in social media and short-form video. And we've seen the impact of that in other areas as well. So we also asked this year about the types of activities people engage in when they're listening to music. What are you getting up to? Well, we have about a fifth of people who just like sitting there and letting the music wash over them, just engaging with that music and just listening to it, listening to the lyrics, enjoying themselves while the music is there. We had about 50% of people in Italy who like relaxing and unwinding while they're listening to music. We've got a third who listen to music while they're working or studying. That's much higher for 16 to 19-year-olds. You probably can't read this tiny figure. 45% of 16 to 19-year-olds listen to music while they're studying. People listen to music while they're online. Self-care, while you're in the bath, having a shower, getting ready for the day. Music is helping driving those activities. When you're traveling to work or school, that's a place where we see a lot of people with their headphones on, enjoying the music that they're listening to there. People listen to music on a night out. 35% of people listen to music. They go out, they're in bars, clubs. We've got a bunch of people as well listen to music while they're exercising. It drives people when they're running, when they're at the gym, around the house, online, you're cooking or eating, when you're in the car, just at concerts, gigs and festivals. Music is fueling all of these different activities. It plays a huge part in people's everyday lives. On average, it's soundtracking about 8 different activities, and that rises considerably the younger you are. Music is more important to you. You want to listen to it wherever you are. You're more likely to use, say, a streaming service. You're more likely to be able to access that music however you want and through whatever device you've got available. I'm going to go really, really quickly through discovery because this is a really fascinating area. And that blue line there, what we see here is the percent of people who use this method to discover new music. And so we see, for short-form video, you've got almost half of, almost 40% of 16 to 19s discovering new music through TikTok or through short-form video. And you can see how quickly that drops as people get older. This is has been a revolution in music discovery for younger people, but it's playing a very small part as people get older. We see YouTube still playing a huge part in discovery. There is so much music available there. It's a really easy way of sharing music with other people. Streaming services, again, like Spotify, Apple Music, like Deezer, playing a part. TV or film is more popular as a place to discover music in Italy than in any other country in Europe, and in fact in any other country outside of Asia and Africa. Plays an enormous part in the music industry here in Italy. We've got word of mouth, chatting to your friends, chatting to your colleagues. Social media is also important. And then we see radio. We talked about how radio is more important as people get older, and the way that radio helps people discover music really changes from the younger users who are absolutely focused on streaming services to the older users where radio still plays an important part in their music lives. Last thing to talk about, the last slide, is just the strength of Italian music. At the end of last year, as in 2021, we found that every single track in the top 10 Italian charts, in the top 10 Italian album charts for 2022 were Italian artists singing in Italian, Italian repertoire. And that's amazing. We don't see other countries where that dominance tends to happen. We also see from our consumer study huge interest just in Italian music overall. half of all music listening, when we ask people, they say that half of their music time is spent listening to Italian artists. 47% of all their music listening time is from people singing in the Italian language. Italian pop was the single most popular genre. Italian hip-hop was more important than hip-hop from outside the country. You think about all the hip-hop that comes from the US, from Canada, from the UK, everywhere else, Italian hip-hop is more popular than any kind of international hip-hop. And the last thing is that cantautorato, those Italian singer-songwriters, are even more popular in Italy than hip-hop is overall. So these strong domestic genres still have a major part to play in Italian music lives. I'm going to leave you there, and we're going to turn back over to the panel, and I think Enzo's got some questions to ask.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Very impressive, and very impressive, the numbers. Thank you. It's the fifth time that IFPI is presenting this presentation and this research in Milan, and all the time we got really impressive numbers, something new. And from this, I take some note from the presentation, and I start with Jessica Keeley Carter. This time I remember correctly the name. Sorry for that. And in particular, the data that shows that in Italy, 39%, as we have seen, of 16, 19 years old are discovering new music on short-form video, namely also TikTok and Shorts. Is there any similar pattern in the Western countries here in Europe and in general in the Western countries from your side?
Yeah. So I think anywhere where TikTok has a significant footprint, people are discovering music on the platform. And that's kind of not surprising when you look at the slide that you had previously that was talking about that's where that demographic are spending most of their time. So if they're spending most of their time there, of course they're going to discover more music there. But I think what's more interesting about what platforms like TikTok and YouTube in their shorts and reels and so on are doing is what they're doing about how they're changing the way that fandom is built. So we're moving into this space where fandom is becoming really more and more about participation. So obviously it's about community, but more and more this age group, this demographic want to participate with artists and participate in that creative process. And Fred again is a brilliant example from the UK as well as Pink Pantheress, and both of those artists go so far as with their communities, they're not just participating in doing dances, the soundtrack or whatever, but they're actually participating in choosing the music that those artists are going to release. They'll give them snippets of different things they're working on, and then they'll feed back. And it's building that really authentic community through these platforms. And the traditional streaming services have struggled with that. And you see that when you go on some of the more traditional services, you hear the lyrics, you hear the music, but you don't really get a sense of who that artist is, what they're about, and what they're passionate about, so you can connect with them on an authentic level. So through those short-form platforms, through participation, fandom is building more. And then obviously from fandom building more, people discover more off the back of that. And I think that's really the best angle to look at it.
Yeah. And Eleonora, Rubini, do you see this pattern also here in your work, daily work on that?
The same way. We work a lot with TikTok because we can move people to listen also on digital partner streaming. But I think that we have to be creative on short movies, short content to create participation, to move people around music, and maybe also Paola and Eleonora can confirm that, but I think that it's the same in every country.
And I think you raised a really interesting point there at the beginning when you note, we think about using these platforms and pushing to traditional streaming services or sales. I think the shift in mindset that's had to happen is how we don't just go and stream, go and purchase. You want to create the community, you want to create that participation, create the audience within the platform that people want to be communicating with your artist in.
Yeah, yeah. I think that we have to create with the fandom because, I don't know, you told about Fred again. Fred again used to, don't use advertising, don't use digital streaming partner, but he used to use fandoms to create music, to exploit the music also here in Italy. We work with some fans of Fred again here in Italy. They create contents, they drive people listen music. I think it's the better way to do this.
Yeah. It's participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asking Eleonora Bianchi, this is not something that is happening on their own. There is quite a complex strategy behind that. And you at UMG are usually doing a lot of work behind the scene to get this stuff working.
Yes, exactly. So as also Eleonora just was saying before, but you probably heard artists complaining about the fact that, oh, the music company is asking me to post a lot of TikTok, but, you know, we're not asking to post TikTok like randomly without a reason. There is always a strategy behind that. One example could be, given the data we have seen, you know, discoverability is coming mainly from that platform. So if we want to make sure to have a best day one after a release, boosting TikTok is already a way, but to ensure that actually the pre-release have a sense, we need more content to be posted and be posted in a smart way. So something that is fitting with the artist, fitting with the song, fitting with the community we want to build, because of course the final aim is that one. So every time we do this kind of activity on a track, we know that the next time for the next single, you already start from a, you know, from a base, from a fan base that is already there and is waiting for new music to be released and is looking forward to jump on a trend that the artist needs to launch somehow, and did a random TikTok like 2 days before the release is not enough. That's actually the point, because we are so pushy sometimes, and I'm actually sorry, but we need to, you know, we try really hard to bring our point on this. So it's not, you know, being pushy just for being pushy. And of course, all the activities we can also try to do with, you know, influencers and fan bases are never that, you know, that random, but we try to invest money because of course we need to pay most of the time. And of course, when the trend is so cool and the artist has, you know, friends, there are even creators, and there is a community that maybe have creator in it, it's easier. But, you know, it's always a struggle, but it's a crucial point given the number also we have seen.
Yeah, Paola, and there are cross strategy also on the different platform. In particular, regarding what we have just listened to, it's something that is going on also at Sony. I think working on different platform, but with a unique strategy.
Yeah, of course. Just to follow up on what our colleagues are saying. Of course, the challenge is also like being able to build fandom via TikTok, of course, because sometimes people just get into songs, but not into artists, and that's something that we have experienced a lot on the platform. Of course, we work to leverage those trends and to start telling a story around the artist. But I would like to maybe take one of the other, I think for us, one of the most important highlights of the report is that, you know, streaming platforms, and particularly paid streaming platforms, are consistently becoming one of the most important place where people listen to music, and that's a signal that our business is healthier and healthier. And of course, so what happens on those platforms is that people discover new songs there, and now it seems like, talking about TikTok, it seems like an old story, but honestly, the playlist still remains one of the key drivers of discovery of new music on streaming services. And so, of course, as a company, we work at so many levels with streaming platforms to be build amazing and exciting campaigns for fans, and of course to work with the, to make sure that our tracks and our repertoire gets into the partner playlist and the editorial and programming of the main streaming platform. That's a core of all of our companies. But at the same time, of course, as a company, we cannot just afford to delegate the discovery of our music to third parties. So we started like back over 8 years ago as a Sony, as a global company, but locally also to build an environment of playlists, and which was basically the way we are making people discover our music, and there are the landing place for our campaigns, and this environment has changed a lot over time. And for instance, during the pandemic, which was a period of big changes for the digital consumption, also for streaming, that that trend of people listening to music while they were doing something else, like fitness or cooking. So that was huge. And that was a particular moment where we focused a lot on building non-conventional marketing campaign, with also including partnering with influencers to have the MasterChef winner to play and promote the music in our music for cooking playlists and those kind of things. But of course, things are continually changing a lot. And as David mentioned, it's a matter of competition in the mind of the
I
of the
ask
people.
something to David, which we can use him, the fact that his competence on the research. This fandom power is something that you are exploring and you're analyzing. It's everywhere, or there are patterns, different patterns. There are specific countries where these fandoms are playing a key role in the promotion.
Yeah, absolutely, and it very much depends on the type of act, but we see it very much focused on those younger users who, I say younger, but 16 to 24s. It's probably covering quite a few people in the audience here. Where the way in which you engage with your artist is by, as Jess said, creating material. It's by talking about them online. It's about standing them, really promoting them online as much as you can. And so it's less about, it's as much about promoting that artist and showing your favoritism towards that artist, as it is just about enjoying the music. And it's fascinating to watch that kind of fandom develop from artist to artist. Yeah. And we've seen K-pop acts like BTS lead the way with the BTS Army. An example, yeah. But we're seeing that sort of coordination appear across the industry now.
Another topic that came out during the Music Week here in several panels, also with the institution, was export. Which is an area where I see, for example, the international royalties for the Italian companies jumped for 92% in the last 5 years. And that thanks obviously to the success of streaming, the fact that there is no barrier, there are a lot of opportunity. So I'm asking Jessica, from your perspective outside Italy, what do you think will be the opportunity for Italian artists that the different genres? What are the opportunities for a country like Italy to exploit their acts outside? From your side, because you are watching into our market from another perspective.
Yeah, totally. So it's been quite fascinating how much, and we call them export pathways, so the pathway that a artist will take out of their home market to the rest of the world. And we've seen over the past couple of years that, to your point, you're seeing in the numbers, has changed significantly. And it's interesting because we as an industry have always assumed this model of US and UK repertoire out to the rest of the world, and we sit in different markets and absorb that coming in. And as you say, with the growth of streaming services, with the we'd call homogenization of global platforms, there was this real question mark that a lot of people had as to whether or not that was going to result in a subsequent homogenization of what people are listening to. And the opposite has happened. and I'm sure you'll get on to the growth of domestic in the Italian market as being one piece of that. But the other piece is with those the export pathways are opening up. And I think, so for us, we can no longer think about it as a one-to-many type of flow. So what I mean by that is you used to have marketing that was broadcast. So you would have, whether it be radio, whether it be TV, it was this one-to-many approach. And you would then see that when export. It was artists coming out of the US, push it to the rest of the world. We have to be so much more specific now about how we identify opportunity. So I'll use the Colours Italia Disco as an example, which the team did an amazing job on. So that track, obviously a fantastic track, started to get traction. It did very well in Italy, and we started to see it crossing over to Poland, which is great. And it's a natural progression that we see with a lot of Italian music. So you start to see that happening, like, brilliant. So we double down, and we start to build and invest in the Polish market. And at the same time, you start to see little flickers happening in Switzerland. So it's okay, cool, we'll double down, we'll start to support that. And you're building momentum. And at a certain point, when you get to a threshold within these markets, they start to open up other markets. So with this particular track, we get to a certain point in Poland, and I think it ended up peaking at like number 2 or something.
Yeah.
It did very well.
In radio number 1 also, yeah.
Radio number 1, there we go. Just got all the stats. I love it. But through reaching that threshold, you then start to open up other markets that are influenced by Poland. So Romania, Hungary, we started supporting there, and then with Switzerland, we know that market has an affinity with Austria, with Germany. So you're thinking about how you systematically work an artist through the fan bases that exist.
Yeah, that's led us also to another question, which is local but international, is catalog. For example, Paola, catalog is becoming more and more important. It's a front line de facto, as we say in Italy.
Yeah, now we said that. Yeah, we work catalog as frontline with a frontline approach, and it's again another great news from this report is that cantautorato, now singer-songwriter music, still plays an important role in the listening habits in Italy. Of course, at Sony we have
because we love Italian language.
Because we love Italian language, and we have a great heritage in terms of like singer-songwriter from the 60s, the 70s, and of course, again, from one side there is a strategy that it's targeted to now to make people who already know these great singer-songwriters like remember in the competition of attention that this great music exists, and to renew somehow like their memory and the approach to rediscover their favorite artists. We have a recent story. I take the chance to mention that these days we are in theaters with a great movie directed by Walter Bertroni about a lost concert from Lucio Dalla at the Gate, the iconic club Gate in New York, and also tells the story of how Caruso was born as a song, and which is obviously a content that is targeted for a wider audience, the audience that already knows Lucio Dalla and go to theaters. But at the same time, we are always on with this kind of artists, and we have some strategies that are direct to new potential fans who maybe listen to new singer-songwriters like, I don't know, Calcutta and others, but maybe are not aware of what kind of roots these singer-songwriters have. And an example I can mention is a campaign that we ran back in March, that it's called Lucio Tanta, which basically celebrates the 2 days that changed the history of Italian music, because I don't remember, 3 or 4 March or 4 or 5, apologies. So both Lucio Dalla,
4 and 5,
both Lucio Dalla and Lucio Battisti were born 8 years ago. So the campaign was basically not just reissuing vinyls for collector, but giving a totally new graphic visual identity and inventing a brand to bring together these two great talents So we had an illustrator, Matteo Berton, who designed the visual identity of this campaign. We was totally like contemporary and direct to potential new fans with a TikTok strategy and everything that is needed today to reach a wider audience.
Use the old catalog or new songs, like the Eleonora, the last Beatles song that got an impressive strategy behind that in approaching also the young generation with
we're talking about this, I mean, catalog that is real catalog, let's talk like this, because we can give different ages to catalog, and in this case, to Paola's example, to one of the Beatles, so we were so lucky to have this case of a very new song of the Beatles, the last one, as they say, that was, brought back to life and redesigned through the help also of in artificial intelligence. But in this case, I mean, we use this track to, of course, give the best present to Beatles fans, but somehow we are also talking to new generation are probably not aware of, the pillars of the contemporary culture of music. So we did a very big campaign, and both on the physical and on the digital side, on Beatles catalog. But surprisingly, then you see probably this kind of campaign, at least I guess it's for all of us, have the best we have the best results in terms of conversion, because people are actually very curious about that, because probably they are very, new to what we're actually pushing. Similar results also we see when we talk about recent catalog, but when I mean with recent catalog, I mean catalog that have 5 to 10 years. And if you look at hip-hop culture right now, I mean, artists like Sfera Basta, Marrakesh and Pequeño, Club Dogo have, so the history of modern hip-hop in Italy have already a lot of tracks and albums in their back catalog that actually are completely new to the TikTok generation. So we see incredible phenomenal track with 5 or 6 year old that have completely new life just because they have been played in a live or because of a very basic trend on TikTok. So, and they got #1 in the chart by, I mean, honestly, we don't even push for this trend, but we just navigate it whenever it sparks naturally.
David.
One of the things I find astonishing about short-form video in particular, but also about streaming services, is the huge diversity of taste it's encouraging amongst the people who are very active on that platform. My daughter, I constantly bring up my daughter in these presentations. She's 17. She spends all her time flipping on TikTok. She has the most diverse musical taste I have ever seen. And it doesn't matter what she's coming across on the platform. It could be some terrible 1970s soft rock thing from America. It could be some piece of 1990s hip-hop she's finding on a friend's playlist. She will listen to it. She has no prejudice whatsoever. As long as the music's good, as long as it catches her, she will listen to it. And I think back to when I was 17, 18, my musical discovery was limited to late night radio, where they played some good stuff, and browsing record shops on a Saturday. Yeah. I had no real other means of finding new music. There are a couple of TV programs, but she has this wealth of material at her disposal. And I'm going to be fascinated to see how that progresses amongst young people's musical taste over the next 5-10 years. What seeds is this kind of thing planting, and what music is going to arise out of all of these cultures, all of these diverse genres that people now have access to?
It's an interesting one there, because it's a real opportunity, but at the same time it's a real challenge, because you were talking about then when you were younger and you would go into a records shop and there was a limited shelf space, so you had 100 artists at your disposal, and then that really was that focus where I was talking about the kind of one-to-many kind of scenario, whereas now it's like an astonishing stat, like there's 120,000 tracks released a day or something mad like that. Either way, the amount of tracks that are released on DSPs in one single day is more than was released in a whole calendar year in the 80s. So the amount of volume that's in the market it's amazing, it's incredible, but it's also such a challenge.
Yeah. We have still some time, so I have a question on last hour news that we didn't comment this morning. Is about the new Italian charts from beginning 1st of January. The Italian charts will include YouTube and will include the free streaming. It's a major change. We are entering in a new phase with a model which is an economic weighting model for the chart with different health and on the different segment of the market. And what do you think? I don't, just as a last question, round question for, and also for Jessica, what do you think? It will be an interesting impact. I'm sure that it is, because we have seen from the numbers from David, YouTube is still is a big part of the Italian market. We have a lot of fans using YouTube and the free tier of Spotify and other platform to listen to music. So this is an interesting move, probably also for the companies, change a little bit also the strategy on the charts and certification.
Yes, I think that it's really important, because we also have a part of Italy, like the south, where people used to listen to music on YouTube and not only on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon. So we have the occasion, the opportunity to bring the people in the charts. I think we have Jolier, for example, or Luque, something like that, artists like that, and they don't have the great results in the chart like the others, because they have a lot of people listen them on YouTube. Paola, you have worked on them together, and maybe you would like to add something about
I really think that it's an opportunity for, and it's also an opportunity for diversity in general, in terms of genres, in terms of areas, of course. So, and willingness to pay, of course, it's important for us, but at the same time, it's important that the chart reflect what's actually happening. So it's not just a matter of, south and north, which is a big point, but also like making other genre emerge. I would mention like Latin music, for instance, which is Italy still remains, I think, the top market for Latin music in terms of non-Spanish speaking countries. And YouTube is, and videos, is not just a matter of YouTube as a platform, but that this video content is being an important part of how they express their creativity. And so I think that will also somehow come out from the chart, together with new trends like, Afrobeat is another trend. It is thanks to the no barriers that this platform have. A genre like Afrobeat has already started to cross the border, to become a big deal in market like the UK, and I'm sure that maybe also like this kind of genre could like start pop up in some of the charts.
Eleonora,
yes, I mean, I perfectly agree with what my colleague said, but I would also like to add the fact that even we give more space also to an older target, an older demographic target that actually is engaging more with YouTube maybe, or with smart speaker through voice than actually on mobile usage. And I think maybe the last change in our chart has been in 2017 or something.
Yes,
so the music business has evolved so much that was actually needed, and just it's so, I mean, we need a real picture of the consumption, so this is perfect. And I think the best results would be, of course, not from the chart side, but again, in the representation somehow of the consumption, we will get it. This new charts combined with the artist-centric model in the royalty, new royalty model would be, the best fit together. The two models together would be the perfect fit for the years to come. So, of course, a lot to test, a lot to see, because we are, I mean, we have been testing and see what is going on with both the models, I mean, the new royalty models and new chart model, but I mean, we need to test it in practice, but I guess it would be an interesting 2024.
We can have maybe one or two questions from the audience here. Is there anything that has not been covered or that you like to know from, in particular, also from David? The whole research and will be released in the next few weeks, I think. So there will be a lot of numbers behind this research also in Italy. So if there is any question, look, I can't see any. Do you have the question? Could be also in Italian. I'm not. We can translate. No question.
Crystal clear.
I can see. So you have one? No. Where?
Oh.
Yes.
In the back.
Please.
Hi, actually, I have a question. Because we're talking about engaging with music with a new form like TikTok and YouTube Short and also Instagram Reel. And myself, as I work in the music industry, I feel like it's kind of a dilemma, because more we are engaging with that kind of format, more like people get less patience with listening to music. Is there like a better way we can engage with music?
Who's starting with this?
So sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the question properly. So is your question that these short form platforms don't necessarily enable people to fully engage with the music?
My feeling is the more we're focused on those kind of advertisement or engagement, I feel like less that people are nowadays having the patience to really listen to music, or maybe from a short video, from a reel, from a TikTok, to go to actually to have the patience to. I feel like everyone's focus is super short now. As I work as a DJ, everyone is doing the job. So I feel like
it's a great challenge, I think.
It's a real challenge, and it's something that we are thinking about a lot, because people are very fickle. There's a huge amount of noise out there, as I mentioned, the amount that is being released. And really the way that we have to overcome that is throwing back to that idea that I mentioned around fandom and authentic connections that artists are making with their fan bases and with their audiences, and the ways in which you can do that. And different artists have different preferences to different platforms, and it is, to your point, there's so much out there, it's impossible to be fully engaged on every single one of them. But to really focus in on those platforms and build that community, build the participation and build the engagement. And that's how you start to get people to convert over to streaming platforms and so on. But it's a challenge. It really is.
One more question, please. No, we need for the recording.
So we mentioned catalog before, and we mentioned how in Italy we value Italian music. I was just thinking about something that happened to me a few months ago. I was in an H&M in Oslo, Norway, and at some point, randomly in the background, I've heard a song by Bruno Lauzi, Il Vecchiaccio, and that was the wildest place that I would ever have imagined to hear a song that is from a catalog in Italy, like in Norway, just so random. So I even felt a bit weird for a second. What I was wondering is, we also mentioned how sometimes we have trends, for example, the case of merengue, where basically we decide to follow a trend that is born on its own, correct? When we're dealing with this sort of happening, this sort of thing, is it driven by, and also it was on the radio, is it driven by an interest abroad? It is driven by an interest by the owners of the catalog in Italy trying to push it in other markets? why is it so random? How can something like that happen? I mean, in practice.
I mean, it can be anything, any of those, I would say. And you can see something that is a trend that has picked up. It could be someone, there are so many different ways that people are engaging with music. And I think, I love that example because it goes back to what you were talking about earlier. And like, catalog isn't just catalog anymore. It's not just this thing that we don't think about, we focus on frontline. Catalog and frontline are kind of the same thing in a world where everything is available to everyone. And that can come from a trend, it can come from a sync. We saw with Kate Bush, obviously with the Stranger Things sync. But it's a really brilliant example, I love it.
Yeah, and catalog is new, as Eleonora mentioned, for new audiences. So yeah, basically last summer, I think in the top 10 of TikTok Italy, there were 2 not new tracks, like one from Gigi D'Alessio, one from Jane, a French artist, from a catalog album.
Also Stranger Things.
The Stranger Things. So, of course, we must be honest, these were like very TikTok born trends, and so in such cases, our job is to try understand quickly if we can leverage these trends and build something big and make people first start convert on the track and listen to the full track, and then maybe get to know the artist and build a potential fandom. That's the real challenge. So, but on the other side, sometimes we work like on catalog strategy on TikTok, and every year we have a celebration on the 29th. Again, I'll mention Battisti. So this was the year when we at last released the official music from Lucio Battisti on TikTok, and so of course we worked a lot on that to make sure we could build consumption from there. So it's both ways, but those kind of trends, they come from the platform.
Okay, I think we have to stop because we got this message from the director of the room. And thank you very much for being here. We can already plan any other panel for next year when David will be ready with the next edition. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, David, and all.